Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. There have been some Hearthstone news recently that have been less than stellar, like the Hearthstone esports program getting multi-million budget cuts, and then Hearthstone Mercenaries no longer receiving updates. So yeah, things have been looking a little bit dire, but what about Blizzard overall? How is Blizzard doing? Is Blizzard in trouble? Or where does all of this come from? Is Hearthstone in trouble? Well, as it happens, Activision Blizzard just released their Q4 financials for late last year this week. So let's take a look at what Activision Blizzard themselves have to say about Blizzard's situation. Blizzard segment revenue and operating income grew approximately 90% year over year in the fourth quarter. Boom! As our teams executed against a substantial pipeline to deliver well-received content across key intellectual properties. Warcraft, Overwatch and Diablo grew strongly year over year and each delivered over $100 million in net bookings. In the Warcraft franchise, World of Warcraft delivered significant year-over-year growth in reach, engagement and net bookings in the fourth quarter, following the September release of Wrath of the Lich King Classic and November launch of Dragonflight. While early Dragonflight sales have not reached the level of the prior expansion, community feedback on the title has been positive. Blizzard has announced plans to deliver substantially more follow-on content for the expansion than in the past, and post-launch subscriber retention in the West is higher than recent expansions. Wow! Elsewhere in the Warcraft franchise, mobile title Warcraft Arclight Rumble continues to progress well through regional testing, which means that we haven't heard anything about it for a couple of months, but it goes well. The October launch of Overwatch 2 with a free-to-play model delivered the highest quarterly figures for player numbers and hours played in Overwatch history. Player investment is also off to a strong start with fourth quarter in-game net bookings at the highest level to date for Overwatch. Wow, that's a lot. Diablo Immortal on mobile and PC also contributed to Blizzard's fourth quarter year-over-year growth. Engagement and player investment trends for the title were stable, and into the new year. Diablo 4, the next installment, is planned for release on PC and console on June 6, 2023. Alright, and then finally a mention of licensing agreements with NetEase that covered the publication of several titles in China expired in January. Nonetheless, we still expect very strong year-over-year financial growth globally for Blizzard in 2023, driven by both the launch of Diablo 4 and live operations. Blizzard remains focused on finding alternative ways to serve the community in China. So we know that the NetEase contract was around 3% of the revenues of Activision Blizzard at one point. And, well, if you have 90% year-over-year growth, then that 3%, of course, from Activision Blizzard, so slightly more than that for Blizzard alone, then that just doesn't do much. Hearthstone is not mentioned here. Hearthstone often isn't mentioned. Hearthstone sometimes has been mentioned as part of the Warcraft franchise. But for Warcraft franchise, they mostly focus on World of Warcraft, with a little bit of mention of Arclight Rumble, and the mention of, hey, over 100 million in net bookings for Warcraft, Overwatch and Diablo means absolutely nothing, because that 100 million is pennies in the grand scheme of things. We don't have all of the financials divided by operating segment, of which there are 3 in Activision Blizzard. There's the Activision part, which is blooming thanks to Call of Duty. Then there's the Blizzard part, and then there's the King part, which means Candy Crush. So 3 months ended December 31, 2022. Blizzard net revenues from external customers 747 million. Segment net revenue 794 million overall. Boom. Blizzard just became bigger than King in the final quarter of the year. Obviously this will not last, this was the launch quarter of many products for Blizzard. King typically has been twice the size of Blizzard. Also, King typically has been around the size or bigger than Activision, but Call of Duty was such a stellar success that 1,800 million compared to King's 700 million. King was still doing fine. That's stellar. Also, segment operating incomes, Blizzard 311 million. Operating margin overall through Activision Blizzard 48.5%. That's crazy. That's printing money. I mean, they have had operating margins that are 10 percentage points lower and more than 10 percentage points lower than that. Activision, Blizzard and King, all of them at the end of last year were just basically printing money. Just crazy profits. And also, as they mentioned, a lot of monthly active users. Blizzard alone in the final quarter, 45 million monthly active users. We know from other news articles that Overwatch had more than 32 million. And Blizzard in September had 31 million. So the Overwatch players alone are more players than Blizzard has had previously. Wow, Blizzard is just so many players, products are doing well left and right, and it's printing money, super profitable. So what about Hearthstone? There is no mention of Hearthstone in this report. That is not atypical. There have been many of these financial quarter reports where Hearthstone is not getting mentioned. Hearthstone typically gets a mention when there's nothing much else going on, or when it's doing particularly well or particularly poorly. And because there's no mention of Hearthstone, then that would indicate that Hearthstone is not doing particularly poorly, because they would disclose that. But on the other hand, it doesn't seem to be part of this super hype either. So overall, the report is not very informative when it comes to Hearthstone in particular, but as a company, I mean, Blizzard is doing super well, so there's no reason to be worried about Hearthstone in that regard, because at least the company is just printing money. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.